Hello everyone, we welcome you to the third episode of the second season of Sports Psyche Talk, India का अपना sports talk show. Today we have Nicole Menezes with us. She is a counseling and sports psychologist with huge experience. I think she's working in the field of sports psychologist in India past 8 years. She worked with the under 17 women's football team. She also working currently with the Rugby India, and she already have empowered more than 1,000 athletes in India, trained more than 350 coaches through the Coaches Empowerment Program. She is also conducting workshops with the AFC's A, B, and C license coaches. She worked with Mumbai AFC. She worked with the Boxing Federation of India, where she conducted a workshop for the coaches. So, Nicole, we welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Karan, for having me.
Nicole, please, it's been a very brief introduction. Can you tell our audience about yourself? How you, started your career as a sports psychologist, and for, the kind of the entire thought process behind becoming a sports psychologist. Because you previously, I think, done counseling psychology. Then, what actually the factor which motivated you to pursue a career in sports psychology?
Okay, so a little bit about me. I had done my master's in applied psychology from Mumbai University first. It's because at that point in time, I was always interested in sports psychology because I come from a family background where my father and sister have been heavily involved in sport. So I've grown up watching and seeing their journeys and literally vicariously experiencing their experiences. I could say that. So we never had opportunities, academic opportunities then in India the way that it's growing now. So I had to take up applied psychology in that time, and I feel like I chose to do that so that I could give myself time to explore the space, also to understand as to how much time uh, or is this something that I could make a career, to be honest. That's why I said, okay, let me do counseling and let me do applied psychology and then take some time, work and see, and that's when I took a year's break. I worked in the field, and then I realized that, hey, there is no awareness at all. And if you're creating that awareness, then people are understanding the value that the mind plays or the role that the mind plays in performance. And that's when I felt that, okay, this is a space I'm already enjoying working in. It would make sense if I, do a very specialized degree, which just teaches me to dive deeper into the subject. And that's when I studied, and I came back and I started my own organization, Great, and started practicing since then.
Yeah, actually, great to hear from you that some passionate elements are there, to motivate you to, within your family, basically, uh, some kind of hierarchy of, the sports element that exists in your family. So, is there a difference, kind of, applied psychology and can you tell us the differences also a little bit in applied psychology? You've done a master's in applied psychology, and in that then you've done master's in sports psychology. And what are the common elements are there? If having this degree in applied psychology is helping you to be even more better sports psychologist, coming from, because applied sports psychology we all talk about, there are two fields. Applied sports psychology is there, and the second one is simple, is more theoretical.
Definitely, the applied psychology degree has helped me in the practitioner that I am today. A lot of my practical skills and practitioner skills has come from my study in applied psychology. I was introduced to psychotherapy. I learned what are the basic fundamentals of as a therapist. That is very useful for me as a practitioner today because a lot of my work is applied in nature. While that is the case, we had different subjects in applied psychology. We had evolutionary psychology. So it also helps me understand how the mind has evolved. Like there are a lot of aspects, social psychology. We had multicultural psychology. So there were different subjects that gave a very broader perspective and we had the choice to choose different electives. Uh, but in sport and exercise psychology, it was very, very focused in sport. So everything was all about sport, from research to what are the skills. So as a practitioner, also what your reflective process should look like, uh, what your assessment should be like. So it was very sports specific. So I feel a combination of both has really, really been, say, helpful for me in the work that I am doing today. I am taking the best from both worlds. And to be honest, in sports psychology, it is performance focused, but there is mental health that I feel is the foundation also, right? So while we cannot have one without the other, that's what I believe. So we can't just isolation may work on psychological skills training. There has to be elements of moving deeper, uh, in the deeper layers in order to understand the athlete better. There are times where we work in camps, do brief work with, say, academies, or where there's a target that, okay, there's a tournament, and then they hire a psychologist just like 1 month for that month. So you need to know how to keep your work brief, at the same time effective. So when you have the best of both worlds, you're in a better position to understand, okay, what does the team need, how can you, or what does the athlete need, and how can you create an intervention that's suiting both. So for me, definitely both the degrees have been vital in where I stand today in the field.
Yeah, that actually is certainly true. You have when you are coming from a two different backgrounds, and it put you in a position where your decision making, become more kind of holistic in its nature. Because you understand the applied aspect, and obviously on the same time you are working in the sports setting. You mentioned about the mental health, and with this particular podcast, we are doing on the mental health concerns of the adolescents. So, what is your take on mental? How you would define mental health?
I look at mental health as I look at it as something on a continuum. So you can have a good mental health on some days, you can have a bad mental health on some days. You can be mentally ill. There are times when people are diagnosed, when you're properly diagnosed with a mental illness, it doesn't mean that you're not having good days, right? When we talk about mental health, when we talk about mental illness, they are very episodic. So it's not like 24/7. When I'm saying depressed means 24/7, I'm just depressed. No, there are moments, there are times, there are days that are going well, but that is on a continuum. So it depends where on the continuum you are, from being absolutely mentally healthy to being, like we call, mentally injured, to then being mentally ill. So that's how I look at mental health. I don't see it as, you are either mentally healthy or mentally ill. Life happens to all of us, and we have good days, we have bad days, and we need to learn to navigate. And when time comes, we need to also seek professional help when needed.
How you see this concept of mental health? I understand. Okay, there's a continuum, and you are at time you're super normal or normal, and then you where you are in within that continuum. Considering you may having mental situation with some mental issues, but that is not exactly mental illness. But if something, kind of persist for a duration, or some kind of mental health symptom is there, and it is there for 1 month or beyond 1 month, 2, 3 months, then probably this is how we have seen the disorders in DSM being categorized with a certain criteria and a duration of certain symptom to persist. So how you basically relate your see the relationship between adolescents' mental health in the sports context.
So when we talk about mental health for adolescents, specifically athletes, okay, I've done a lot of work with student athletes. Okay, and that I feel is the most challenging phase of their life, because they have to balance. And when I say have to, means they don't have an option. They have to balance study, academics with sport. And the Indian culture, which is a very high achieving culture, that we have, where parents do tend to put pressure on the kids saying that, okay, you need to ace your academics as well as your sport. So it becomes difficult. Like when I work with student athletes, specifically, they are within this age range of say 10 to 19, that's or 18. That's the age range. When I'm working with these guys, what happens is their schedule is so tight. It's like they don't have space to breathe or to spend some time with themselves also. That's a luxury. Like doing anything apart from sport or academics is luxury. You wake up in the morning, you're either going for training, coming back, maybe entering school late because of your training, then trying to stay focused throughout your school, coming back, getting ready, immediately going for training again, coming back, maybe you have a half an hour break to change over, go for your tuitions, come back, then do your homework, then prepare for the next day, and then this cycle continues. So it is very challenging, and in that time, it becomes very important to create an environment at home that helps the athlete to become and stay resilient through this journey that they are having. Support is something that is something that will really help an athlete shine or thrive in an environment like that. Otherwise, there are times where athletes do make a decision by the age of say 15, 16 that hey, I cannot pursue uh, sports or try to make it a career because I don't think I have it in me. And the reason that happens, I feel, or with my interactions with players, is because your energy is so divided in so many areas and you're trying to give 100% every day, everywhere. It is going to take a toll on you at some point in life. Are you having enough resources? Are you having enough people? Are you having that supportive unit to help you in that journey? Then it's a different story. Have you made a decision that this is the route and there is no plan B? Then it's a different story. But when you are juggling and parents want to play safe because it's normal, and I think it's understandable because everyone wants a bright future for their kids, right? Everyone wants to see their kids, have a stable career, have a stable life. So by the time parents start thinking at the age of say 12 or 13 for their kids that okay, is this something that they need to pursue full time? Do they need, like, if they need to be a pro athlete, I need to know now. So their whole performance, how they perform in their sport is in a spotlight. So winning matches, you have not performed well, what is this, how you're going to play, if this is this how you're going to become a player. So those kind of talks start there at a very early age. Now that is from the family side. We don't know the kind of coaching that's happening on the field. We don't know the kind of environment that the school is providing. Kitna, like how much safety does the school provide? Do they have systems in place for bullying, for harassment, for everything? Because they're kids. Kids are exploring themselves, creating an identity at that time. So they are going to engage in all kinds of things in that moment. And it's about this athlete trying to juggle everything and still shine or still create a sense of self. So mental health challenges, I feel at that age is really high because it depends the core influences at home. It's the primary caregiver, which is your parents. And in on the ground or on the field, it is your coach. In the school, it is your teacher and your friends. These are the primary influences that create our environment. Okay, and because we interact with them every day, their opinions on what we do, their judgment about us really starts to shape how we see ourselves. Their judgment about us really starts to shape our own esteem and the way we move forward in life. So by the time, say, you're 22, 23, and you're transitioning, where then now you have your own rational mind, it's developed, and it is still developing, right? At that age, like when you talk about adolescence, it's just starting to develop. Your idea of judgment, of self, is just starting to develop. But by the time you're 20, 25, or by the time you're then 30, that's when you realize that, oh my God, like, I need to unlearn so many things that by default I just happened to learn because I was in a particular environment. then the challenges keep growing, then your process starts, and it's a different story then. But this age group, I feel it's the most challenging to be or to, and it's a part of life. You have to move through this age group, right? You don't have a choice. You have to go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You have to move through this age group. So it is the most challenging part of their lives. And this is the time I feel they need maximum compassion, they need maximum support, and maximum guidance. This is the time that's what I think will help them navigate the challenges, because the challenges are going to stay. Help them navigate the challenges during those periods.
Yes, actually, yeah, I think you have just given a wonderful description how the different factors, including the parents' involvement and then the coaching and the type of coaching happening, the school and environment, basically overall environment. If the athletes are, staying in the hostel, so the psychological safety within the hostel is also very important. Nicole, I just want to ask, something. Is there any other factor is there any chance of some type of athlete are more likely to develop mental health issues because of the things happen in their life, when they were kids or children, or some sort of genetic hereditary relation is also there. Some kind of, you can shed some light on those factors as well.
Definitely, genetics is going to play a role in your mental health challenges. But I still believe you have the responsibility to, what you say, manage it or break the cycle. Whenever you feel that, or whenever you develop that awareness that, hey, this is how the history in my family has been. Once you're aware of that, I think it becomes a person's responsibility to not continue that life in the same way, and not go ahead with that victim mentality. But definitely, athletes do come from different kinds of households, and and you see a difference. Like, let me give you an example. Someone who's coming from a very neglectful household where parents are not really available to the kid emotionally, or are not involved or engaged in their life mostly. I've seen those athletes or constantly strive for perfection. Like, they constantly are trying to be perfect at everything. Then they're just never satisfied. And that says it's because there is a sense of feeling inadequate somewhere, that I'm not enough, or there's less, and there's less in me, and I need to do more in order to be maybe validated, maybe accepted, maybe loved. So it really is different for different athletes coming from different households. There is someone who's neglectful, there's someone who's over involved, like, say, a parent who's over involved, like a helicopter parent, like we call it, who's constantly there in training, say, who's everywhere. Matlab, it's not needed, but still the parent is there everywhere, who's not leaving the sight of the child during training, who's calculating how many errors you have made throughout the training, who's taking away that fun element in training for which the child actually started playing the sport, and who's constantly there after matches to tell that how could you lose to a player like this, and that kind of conversation. That kid has a lot of anxiety too. That kid starts developing anxiety because the only thoughts that are in the mind are the critical thoughts. And again, there's a sense of, okay, I need to do this better, I need to improve this, I need to make less mistakes. So then the child not only is feeling anxious, or the adolescent or the athlete is not just feeling anxious, but the attention shifts from the sport or performing or staying in that process to being accepted by the parent, or just doing it for the validation of the parent or the acceptance, or to make them happy. And that creates different challenges for the kid. So the kid now is not going for training because needs to train to build a ranking or whatever, to develop a ranking or move up the ladder and grow more in the sport. But it's more like, okay, how can my mother be more happy? I want to make my parents happy. We hear that a lot from kids. I want to make my parents happy. It definitely comes from a great intention and a very sweet intention. But there are layers to that. There are layers to that as to why they say that. And what does it really.
Yes, actually, yeah, certainly there are multiple factors which are responsible for, development of these mental health issues or illnesses as you grow up, in your life. Uh, there are some common issues or mental health issues are there. These all situations manifest into some sort of abnormality into our thought process and the behavior. Can you highlight those common challenges? How these life situations, conditions, involvement of the multiple factor manifest into these inculcation of these challenges, mental health challenges.
So definitely, when we talk about a cumulative of all of this, it could lead to athletes doubting themselves a lot. That is the number one sign that we see. I'm constantly doubting myself. I'm constantly anticipating the worst case scenario. Like every time, I'm becoming very pessimistic in my approach. Like first only, I'm feeling ki, okay, it's not going to happen, or I'm going to lose, or having that kind of mindset, a very pessimistic personality throughout. What else? Feeling anxious, definitely catastrophizing, all the time. So these are definitely certain signs where you understand that, okay, the challenges have become, this is the start. And if we don't address it now, then this is going to grow into something that's going to be more difficult, or more difficult for the athlete to
Maybe the
sit
something which
with.
may need further, yeah, further clinical attention of some clinical
Yes,
psychologists.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Because sleep is a problem also, one day before matches. Many of the time, when they feel that their reputation and status is at stake. If I'm, say, a high ranked player and I'm playing with someone who's not as ranked as me, okay, and there, if the fear is so strong, there are athletes I have worked with who get a panic attack, or while you're in a competition. So dealing with that, that's another, that is, that you so we can also understand how much it has exaggerated the image or the story they're creating in their mind, the kind of exaggeration it has, and kind of training them to handle those moments, to understand that this is temporary, understand why is it happening, understand their patterns, is something that I help athletes to do. And that's why we have a pre-match routine, or a pre-competition routine, or a pre-performance routine, like we speak, right? Because it helps deal with anxiety. It helps us be more certain, more in charge, more in control of what's going to come for us. Because I know after this routine, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. So you have a set tasks in place for you to keep continuing. So your mind is in the zone, you're in the present, you're doing what you need to do, you know what is going to come after what, you're able to anticipate what's going to come next. So it keeps you more in charge, it keeps you more in control before you enter the match. So that you then get into the zone. So that's when even mental skills training comes in play. But definitely, these are common signs that athletes experience when you talk about mental health challenges.
Yeah, there are many examples as well. We have seen, now that the mental health, specifically the sports community and fraternities actually started talking a lot about the mental health issues in the sports, and they're just trying to create more and more awareness. We have seen many athletes coming up. Simone Biles is the biggest case, actually, how she got exploited by one of the doctor, and that doctor basically is not exploiting Simone Biles or many other female gymnasts over there. We have seen, the Roger Federer going through some anger issues at time, taking help of psychologists. Even Michael Phelps and Virat Kohli, they all gone through some sort of depressive episodes in their life. So there are many, stories are also, around that testifies the mental health issues are real. Now coming on to okay, so there are factors which are responsible for inculcation of these mental health issues, challenges, and it manifests into different ways. We see ourselves at time, feeling anxious and depressive, struggling with their self identities and all. Uh, uh, how you see, so social media is very big actually, nowadays, and technology is something which are almost, if not robotic, but I call, we are semi-cyborgs kind of, where we are using a lot of gadgets. Our watches are smart now, our cell phones are smart now. We have headphones which are wireless. And these are the temptations as well for young generation, and we are specifically talking about adolescents. So Nicole, actually, I just want you to kind of highlight the impact of social media on the mental health.
When you talk about social media, definitely it has a huge impact on mental health. I recently came across a post on Instagram that says scrolling is the new smoking. And it was so true. When I read that, I was like, okay. And I was scrolling while I read that too. And it was such a moment for me to be like, okay, I am also a part of this process. It's not just adolescents, to be honest, it's everyone, all of us. We are way more connected on the internet than we are in person, right? And that's isolating us uh, as human beings, also, I feel. So I don't think this is a very adolescent problem, though we make it look like kids do it and teenagers do it. I think our parents are also more on Facebook and Instagram now, trying to, make reels and create content and all of that. The world is moving in a very different direction when we talk about social media. But definitely social media can impact your mental health because what we see on social media is not real. They are glimpses or highlights of people's life, and they are glamorized and they are romanticized. The good times of life or the good vibes only are glamorized and romanticized. So what happens is we then tend to compare that life that we see on social media to our existing one. So if I am sleeping on the bed and just scrolling and I'm seeing someone is partying, having fun, I'm going to feel like, okay, what am I doing with my life? I'm missing out on so much. And athletes do feel that because they are anyway sacrificing so much to reach somewhere in life or to grow some or create a name or make a name in sport, right? And that is something that that they struggle with because they are making so many sacrifices. What is the return of investment for them? So when I'm looking at social media and I'm seeing my friends partying, my friends drinking, my friends going dancing, all of that, there is a sense of, okay, what am I doing? How, like, is this worth it? I don't have a relationship in my life, or it's just me and my sport, and my social life is taking a toll, all of that. And teenage is the school years are the most important years when you make friends, right? School and when you just start college, so you're missing out on so much. Then the question comes at, is this worth it? There are so many things that come in mind when we are on social media. Also, when we talk about social media, the algorithm, the more you're scrolling a particular stuff, the same kind of content, or your phone is anyway listening to you all the time, right? So it knows what kind of content to keep pushing, which is very dangerous, but at the same time, it's actually shaping the way you need to see your life, which is very, very scary, to be honest. So your perspective, your perception is being contaminated by what you consume on social media. So that too has an effect on the way I think, the way I feel, the way I do. So definitely social media impacts. When you talk about athletes or people, we tend to compare ourselves to people's lives. We sleep less because we are more on social media. We tend to project a life that we don't have on social media. There are a lot of things that come into play that keeps us more isolated rather than move back into living in a community. That's what we humans are made for, to stay in tribes, to stay in community, and move forward. It's made us more isolated, which I can say adds up to more mental health challenges, uh, feeling inadequate, feeling less, feeling more anxious. Getting up, it's the cheapest dopamine we have today. You get up, the first thing you're opening, say, WhatsApp, it's bombarding you with information, or you're opening Instagram, it's again bombarding you with information. So it depends. So that's where we need to be more mindful of what we are consuming. We need to be more mindful or more aware of how much we are consuming, what are we consuming, because at the end, we are what we consume. We become what we consume. It's not just about food or life, it's even about now the digital life. It's all about that. So definitely it has an impact.
Yeah, actually, so I certainly see, the social media have both pros and cons actually. It depends basically how we use the social media. Various platforms are there, and variety of information is available, and you can consume the content which help you to become a better individual, or you can consume a kind of content which can even make you feel more miserable. And certainly that one thing which you said is I absolutely second to it, that what we see is what we see on the social media is the glimpses of the lives of others. This is not the reality, and then we start consuming those small snippets of certain of people's life, and then that is how we basically develop perception of the world around us. And it is not incorrect to say that it is a big hacking thing which hacks our mind in a different way. Like coming, if we go back to 100 years, how people used to get the information through magazines and the newspapers. But nowadays, I think cell phone is the one, very important tool to connect with the world all the same time. But it is also a tool to control the world.
So, Karan, like a lot about me, but I'm also curious about you because you have worked in high performance centers for such a long time, and I'm sure that you work with athletes who have made it big already in the sports space, and there's a lot of limelight on them when it comes to media, papers, interviews, all of that. So, what are the challenges that they experience or they come to you with when it comes to media or the attention they get on the media? What are the challenges they experience, and what do you do to help them cope with those challenges? If you could share, some stories.
Nicole, I think, honestly speaking, it is. I'm not going to say that they do face challenge. All of them. The one thing which actually uh, plays in their favor is their experience, because they are now at that level of professionally they're playing, their elite, considered to be elite and high performing athletes, and on the same time they are very well supported. All these high performing athletes certainly uh, training in a high performance environment where they have a physio, where they basically have a lot of facilities, even the access to. There are many high performing athletes in our country, those who have access to psychologists. The point here is there are few people who are working in the field of sports psychology. Yes, it is true. Not everyone having the access, but this is also true. But particularly these athletes, um, the one thing which plays in their favor, the experience. So they basically know how to make their presence felt on the social media, because that is how they get their sponsors.
Right.
And also it helps them to gain some recognition also. So almost all the athletes are now they are using social media in a very positive way. If you ask me, when I was working 2015-16, yes, definitely in a certain type of environment, coaches were like, they were not really happy if they go to the WhatsApp and they check whose WhatsApp is on. A lot of spying activities, a lot of surprise visitors to the room, their dormitories, go and see who is using cell phone, whose light is turned on. And these are things, and some of the incidents where when athlete experience, see the coaches are keeping eye on each and every activity what athletes are doing, whom they're talking to, keeping their cell phone, asking them, okay, give me your password, let me check, uh, your last scene on the WhatsApp. Those things that affected a lot of these potential athletes, also an elite athlete के साथ तो ज्यादा होता नहीं था, not many of the coaches, they were like, they were able to go and check on elite players. Challenges, likely challenges when they don't know where they are going wrong in terms of posting their reels. Like I have seen the athlete recording their workout all the time, they record and they post, so they are into that. That may help them in terms of their motivation also, because they are recording their self, their workout. If they do warm up, cool down workout, and ask somebody, okay, you know, take my photo and all, and then they try to post. I think they may exceed uh, some sort of that boundary, mm, uh, spending then scrolling and checking on, who, how many likes are there, how many followers are there. Uh, but since they are mature enough, so I see that they become slightly more clever in terms of using technology. Kids and adolescents, relatively, because of their lack of experience how to make good use of social media or their cell phone, are at disadvantage when we compare them with the elite athletes. Otherwise,
Hmm.
I
In
have
fact,
not seen,
huh.
a particular case, if I remember. Uh, Even if they spend a lot of time, somehow they are able to manage to do their training. But
Hmm.
back end, any elite athlete, if they have long-term goal of being an Olympic champion, so we have a very good example here of Phoebe Sindhu, who she basically stopped using her cell phone for 8 months almost before Olympics. So that
Hmm.
kind of control is also required. Um,
Restraint, yeah.
it may affect your sleep and all. And there were some cases where they were not able to sleep before 11:30 and 12 o'clock. Ideally, they usually, coaches ask the athlete to sleep around 10 o'clock or 10:30 and get up by 5:30 and 6 o'clock around. The sleep disturbances I have seen among the athletes because of,
Hmm.
if they spend too much time on the social media, if they play a lot of PUBG. PUBG is
Hmm.
very common. PUBG is the most common game they play.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There are times where I've seen athletes in a group sitting, but are on their phone,
Yes, yes.
in and playing
Even
either
international
PUBG or
competition also. So I have
yeah.
seen in international competition, you just simply can't just like enter into their room and being a psychologist. Our job is to, mostly when we are traveling, is observation. So gathering information. Not necessary for me if any elite athlete with the other, peer group, 4 5 of them are in their room playing PUBG. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock. I will not go and tell them, okay, guys, it's your competition and you sleep. Until unless I'm in that, I have that kind of relation with them, probably. But usually, because we spend short time with the athlete, 1 week in a camp, 10 days in a camp, and that is not sufficient. For me, it was not sufficient. I've seen them doing this. Certainly, it affected their performance also, because when they are not able to perform next day, what you can how you can uh, define the performance in terms of which factor affected. The likely chances, you
Hmm.
last night you played PUBG 12 o'clock and then still talking and chatting on cell phone and sleeping 12:30, getting up
Hmm.
around 5 o'clock in a different country with a different time zone. Uh, so I think certainly these are some of the factors that may affect the sleep of their recovery of the
Hmm.
elite athletes.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. In fact, I have seen, I feel like when we talk about adolescents, at least till the age of 16, you know, I work from Mumbai. Okay, so unless and until I'm traveling on camp with national teams, my base is Mumbai. So when you talk about athletes, they travel to their training grounds, okay, or to their, say, training facilities. It's not that they are a part of a residential program. From home, they travel. So what I have learned, especially with student athletes, is because time is such a crunch, like time is so tight, these athletes take their books while they're traveling. They're actually studying while traveling. So they're trying to complete their note or their homeworks while traveling. That's what I am aware of, at least with the ones that I've worked with, because they don't have time and they need to complete all their assignments, their homeworks, or get ready for the weekly tests, because that is those marks are going to be a part of their unit and term, and give them the whole score by the end of it. So when we talk about being distracted with social media, I feel it's more it's more like an idea that people have. I don't feel they have that much time to spend to be on social media considering the life that they are living. That is what my observation and understanding is based on my interaction with the with maximum amount of student athletes. They don't have that time. They do get time. I'm not saying that they're not on social media. They are on social media. They do have that time, but it's not like not not like majority of the general population or like us where we have that little time also and we are scrolling. Yes, I know that free period, I think that is also more like a coping. I look at it that way. Like when I don't know how to deal with boredom, I that's my only access I have into a world that has so many things on there, right? So that is something that is possible for us to do. Or even when we have difficult emotions in ourselves, say after a loss, or when we have performed really badly and maybe we have been shouted at or spoken to really in a harsh tone or way, the immediate response usually is to go back to your phone and just doom scroll. And I see that as more of a coping mechanism than it being as something that I'm doing intentionally, because I'm so uncomfortable with what my body is feeling, the sensation in my body. I'm not able to deal with it. I am just going on the phone to distract it. But then again, that's a temporary distraction. That's a temporary way of blocking all the anxiety my body is feeling, or blocking all the uncomfortable feelings my body is feeling in that moment. And then I'm back to normal and then I continue my day, you know? So I
I
feel,
also want to, yeah, sorry to cut you, but I also want to add one more thing actually. Since you asked me this question, the elite athlete. So I work with the footballers, those who are elite.
hmm,
So very honestly, they know elite players' lifestyle.
hmm,
That one thing. So they have a certain lifestyle. And I've seen athlete. It is not like they do use cell phone. They do use cell phone, but they're also very, disciplined in terms of coming onto the training. Putting their 100% effort. If I talk about ISL player, Indian Super League player footballers, so they used to train with us. Those are some of the things where actually they actually have this idea of how much time they are giving to the cell phone. Maybe we are just trying to overlook into this matter sometime when it comes to, okay, become an elite player, basically to reach at that level at high performance is not an easy thing. For giving a mobile phone. He was working with the Spanish football coach. Actually, he was a technical director also, and I went to him, just was trying to understand what he thinks about cell phone, and he said it is for him in his culture he come from. But it is perfectly fine. They can use the cell phone for 1 to 2 hours each day. It is not necessary that they are not given cell phone throughout the week, and the weekends they're getting cell phone for full day or maybe half day. So you have to comply with the rules and regulation of the certain institution or certain organization. As a psychologist, you are just not there to just make change of the rules and regulation, the policies. And I remember, where I was just counseling these, football players. They were like 15 to 17 years old, and telling them, okay, I understand that I also, feel the same way you feel of not having a cell phone, and then one session in a day, and then you go attend 2 3 classes, come back around to the academy like 1 o'clock or 12:30, and then you finish your lunch, and then second half is totally you have nothing to do in the second half. Maybe one more class in the evening of Hindi or English, something like that. And then you have couple of small games, carom board and table tennis. How you basically spend your time. You have 24 hours, and the kind of age they are basically, with the high energy and all. So how they are channelizing their energy. If they are not given a kind of in a very positive way, we are not trying to establish the perception of using a cell phone. I think they may end up doing something, like I've seen kids getting angry and irritated, and then they are behaving poorly with each other and fighting with each other also. That is also not good for the team. A factor could be My likely chances there is some other factor in the background. Uh, that kid is the athlete or the football player or kid is not really feeling positive, or he's more into the kind of the negative emotions, especially irritability I'm talking about. They are irritated because of something, and then somebody comes and joke around and they react to that joke, and then they both are fighting. It's very bad for a team environment.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, I understand that, and well, I look at it as this way. I feel like we are not there to control them. Number one, we are not there to micromanage their life. We are there to support them in areas they need support to move forward or move closer to the life that they want to live and move closer to their goals. That's how I see my role. And I too have been asked about cell phones and stuff like that. And especially when you're working with adults, I just tell the management that they are adults. We cannot treat them like children, and they have all the right to do whatever they want. They are here for a reason. I think that purpose needs to be emphasized further and brought into the limelight as to why we are here. Because sometimes we can get carried away with vices, and we all have our areas in life where we indulge in, and it's very normal, it's very human to do that, and it's about knowing, or it's about learning skills to create the quality or the skill of restraint. Can I delay this gratification for a bit,
Yeah.
or can I create a discipline for myself to help me get closer to the life I want to have for myself as an athlete. I think that is where we as psychologists come in play in helping them move closer to that life. And I think helping them also understand that everything is more like a transaction. I see it that way also. It's like a trade-off. If I'm sacrificing this, what am I getting back in return? If I'm giving away my time with my phone, what is it I'm getting back in return? More sleep? Is more sleep helping me move closer to becoming a better performer? Hell yes. So I'm going to do that. Is that more important? Is that more necessary for the career I'm looking for? Yes. Then I'm willing to make that trade, or I'm willing to make that transaction. So it also becomes important as a psychologist how you are bringing um, how are you helping them if that is a challenge, if that is a concern, how you're helping them, with what lens are you helping them see that concern, and how are you helping them navigate through if that is a problem that they're experiencing. If it's not, it's fine, let them be, it's okay. And it's social media, I feel it's the new age we all are living in, everything is digital. I don't know how the world is going to progress forward with AI and all of it. While it's scary, it's good. It has everything has its advantages and disadvantages. Anything used in excess is going to be problematic. So I feel knowing your boundary, knowing your line is something that's going to come with time and experience,
I
maybe.
particularly like your point of the psychology of control. Within an environment, basically, nothing against the management and all, but the management need to be little open in terms of acceptance of certain things. I actually applied this to football. I love football. I started my career with football actually in I League.
Hmm.
But I got an opportunity in Jamshedpur to work at Tata Football Academy and JFC, and then here also we are working with the football in Odisha. The 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 boys we are dealing with, we are much more open and friendly with them. We are not making them feel guilty. In my sessions also, I remember last my session, I entered the recreation room and they all were playing football on PSP, and some of them sitting behind also using cell phone playing PUBG also. And how you basically introduce yourself, not presenting yourself someone very strict and authoritarian, the kind of language you use around with these boys, telling them, "Hi guys, how are you?" Giving them a high five and all. And I was like, I don't know PSP, you guys, how you're playing, and just teach me a little bit. This is how they get, kind of
You
comfortable
create a
around,
rapport with them.
yeah, kind of rapport. And I actually don't know how to play football on PSP. That is I have seen PSP before, and I sat over there. I asked them, okay, you play, choose, player between player, and then I. So this is how you basically develop your relationship and not make them feel guilty that using a cell phone, playing game is bad or this or that.
Hmm.
And anyways, so I think social media, is definitely have both pros and cons. And I think acceptance of certain things in new age is also required. This is I think, the end of the kind of discussion we both had around the social media and its impact on the adolescents, and their mental health. Coming on to the topic of back on this topic of mental health, we have just are going to briefly discuss the interventions. So, what interventions are there, Nicole, in your mind? If I have like shared one case with you, when we were talking, on a cell phone, that there was this, some such kind of case where children going through family issues and all. If you see as somebody coming to you with the suicidal thoughts, or depressive feelings, or maybe feeling of an anguish and rebellion, uh, how you basically kind of structure your intervention plan dealing with the mental health issues plus illnesses, because this is illnesses is
Hmm.
again a very vast, but we can still have certain interventions in front of us.
So when it comes to illness, Karan, I do not work with those clients because it's beyond my area. What I do is I have a referral system of clinical psychologists and trusted clinical psychologists and psychiatrists that I trust their expertise and work. I refer my clients to them, and then they take it forward from there. And then I'm there when it comes to the sport or counseling aspect. So the subclinical cases is what I work with. So when we talk about even suicidal, when it's ideation, when they're having idea of suicide or they're having thoughts, I do address them. And I feel it's very important to address them there and then, and keep them as the focus and not what their family will think or what will happen if they, if they think about something like that. Because people commit, people, think about suicide or move in that direction only because there's so much pain that they're experiencing that they feel the only way to stop that pain is by ending their life, right? And that is really, really, really sad. It's my heart just breaks to see someone in so much pain, right? So that's the time where you get with your client or with your athlete or whoever is sitting in front of you to explore what is going on. Tell me, like, speak to them. There is a time for even crisis management, but I feel having suicidal thoughts is a very normal thing, and I think it needs to be normalized. I think that doesn't need a response where, oh my God, it's a very normal. We all go through hard times in life where we think like, I wish I was not alive, or I wish I was just dead. And that comes from a deep-rooted pain that it's so deep, it's so strong, it's so overwhelming, it's so numbing in that moment that we only feel the only way to end that is by ending our life. And that is the sad reality of the person who's experiencing that. So addressing that, unfolding that, helping them through that is something. When a person has already attempted, when they are hurting themselves, when they're harming themselves, that has a different set of process to it. That's a different set of plan and crisis intervention that needs to come in play. And a safety, what you say, process needs to be put in play for them, in order for us to continue doing that work with them, for continue working on their mental health. But if it is clinical in nature, I do refer those clients. They are not my say set of clients I work with on those particular cases. To an extent, I
So,
can help and not beyond that.
so you basically trying to say here that if it is limited to your thought process only, not yet uh, turned into a certain kind of action or a behavior, if it is
Hmm.
restricted to you just had a thought or a feeling of, feeling worthless, and then on the same time questioning yourself that why you are alive and you shouldn't be alive and all. If it is limited to that, and if it is those thoughts have started very in a very recent time, like 10 days, 15 days, in a very acute and early stage, if at that moment athlete approaches you, I think that is where even if despite not having the expertise in that area of mental health issues or dealing with the mental health illnesses disorder, uh, it is, I think, kind of wise to get some preliminary information about the background of the issue, and then refer to the clinical sports psychologist.
I don't see that. I feel like if you are a professional, these are basic things that I feel one needs to be aware of. Like when we talk about suicidal first aid, right? Or mental health first aid. These are basic things, and this anyone can learn. These are skills that even say in a corporate, a team leader needs to learn, or say even in a sports setup, a coach needs to know. Because not everywhere there is a psychologist present, or not, and like uh, we do not have a regulated system, to be honest. Okay, in our country, where there is a directory, and you can just reach out to people. Everything is very reference based, who knows what. And there is no much so much, people do not have that kind of contact system where. And mental health is also expensive, to be honest. There are toll free lines that you can reach out to, but that is again very crisis specific. So there are a lot of loopholes over here. So I feel like definitely when someone is coming to you, to a psychologist needs to be equipped with the basics as to how to handle. When someone's coming to you with suicidal thoughts, what are the things you need to explore? What are the things you need to talk to them? How do you be non-judgmental when you are having that conversation with them? How do you, maybe it sparks or it triggers something in you? It's a very normal thing, right? Maybe you have had someone in your life whose life has ended because of suicide, someone close to you. It can trigger something in you, right? How do you contain your feelings and then stay present to the client is also a skill that a psychologist or a therapist or whoever, a mental conditioning coach, needs to develop in that moment. So there are ways to address it, but again, it depends who's sitting in front of you. Are they equipped with that skill set? What kind of questioning goes into the session? What kind of exploration? How do you calibrate who's sitting in front of you, what they need in that moment? How do you help them create a sense of safety in that moment? These are the things that become really, really important. But what I am saying is having suicidal thoughts is normal. That's what I'm saying. I don't feel it is something abnormal. I feel it is very human, because the pain sometimes in life happens. The intensity of what we go through in life differs from person to person. And I feel like suffering and pain is what connects us as humans. That's one common element we all have as humans, that is suffering. We all are suffering. Maybe our intensity is different. Maybe your pain, how you experience pain or suffering is different to what I experience. But that doesn't mean I'm competing with your suffering. That no, my suffering is way more. You don't know what I went through. No, it is the same. So we need to create that level of empathy or understanding, because that's the only thing that binds us. That's the only thing that's a space where we think, at least that's not a space that I'm going to be isolated, because if I have experienced pain in life, life has happened to you too. Maybe the intensity is different, but hey, that's a common element between us. And that's where I bring in compassionate focus therapy and use compassionate tools with clients, because that's one space I think that is not explored only with athletes specifically, because we are talking about performance, we are talking about, say, mental strength, everything. It has to be like you got to go for it. But in that moment, we forget the whole soothing system that we have, where we can tap into it to actually our threat system, which is our default system, and use compassionate focus tools to kind of build safety and thrive in our environments. So, when we talk about suicide, I think that is my point of view. That's my opinion. When we speak about clients having suicide ideation, when it comes to self harm and further, that's not a space that I am equipped with, but definitely that's a skill that I am learning right now and looking to move forward in, because I feel it's a basic necessity. If something like this you come across, you need to know how to handle that situation, and I feel like that's something that people in our field, sport field, need to be more aware and educated.
Yes, so I think these are some of the mental health common mental health challenges are there, like depression and anxiety. This episode is I think not easy to cover actually, because mental health itself a very big topic,
Vast.
and
Yes, it's
you
very
know
vast.
we just can't discuss a depression or summarize depression in one single episode. Or reason behind depression. Depression itself, uh, uh, you know. Uh, for general population also and sport specific also, anxiety and all these mental health challenges. uh, yes, suicide, I think, yes, government or maybe the institution or organization should work on to it, and having this suicide prevention hotline, within the system, where SOS system is there if somebody is going through some sort of mental health challenges, or you go a certain you know cell number or WhatsApp number. You try to connect with the concerned person, and then there is a SOP around to help that person. So I think the institutions and sporting organizations should focus on the suicide prevention helplines, or maybe mental health issue prevention helpline, something like that. So you
Hmm.
said, like unfolding and talking to the individual is the one strategy or one type of intervention where you may use different type of psychological tools. A compassion based psychological tools are one for you, that is your choice, or you want to want to share some more tools here, like one is the
For
compassion
what?
based therapy.
For?
Yeah, for mental health, like so there are
Well, there
yeah,
are a
within
lot
that
of, when you, yeah,
realm
when
of.
you talk about mental health, there are many, what you say, tools that you can use. It also depends on what kind of,
Like one by one, the briefly actually, because we actually already discussed enough. So briefly, what tool
yeah.
can
So
this from psychological
helping athletes even identifying what their thinking errors are and thinking traps. That's one way, making them more aware of it, so that then they can rationalize situations better.
So REBT
Uh,
is the one you want to say.
CBT, REBT, that's one. Uh, y- uh, Moving, even when you talk about working on mental health, even having a good self-care routine is something that's very important. How do you set boundaries? How do you schedule your day? Because you're going to wake up every day and are doing different tasks, your task management, your food, your nutrition, everything comes in play. It's not just a mental, say, intervention. Has to be holistic. You have to involve your nutrition. Maybe sometimes mental health challenges happen only because you're deficient in vitamins, and that's something that we don't consider. So when I have clients who show up with mental health challenges, my first thing to them is go do your blood test, check your vitamins, come back. And that's when you understand, okay, there's so much deficient. It's deficient, it's not even borderline. And then you understand, okay, itna, why there is so much, feeling tired, why are you exhausted all the time, why are you anxious so much, why is sleep a problem, magnesium may be low, your B12, your D3, all these impact your mental health. So it becomes very important to even do your blood work, and that's something I am very open and clear about when I meet athletes. Then your food, how much, and I'm talking about the adolescents. Okay, I'm talking about them. At that, what is the food they are eating? Because the kind of athletes we work with, not everyone is at an elite level that has a nutritionist in place. Some are at a grassroots level, some are semi-pro. They're moving up the ladder, they're transitioning into it, and not everyone has the resources. So there are many aspects that I support them with. Of course, nutrition is not my area, but when they need reference within, again, the trusted professionals I know, I recommend them where their diet plans are taken care of, or just having more nutritious meals, and you understand, and then you see that, okay, the challenges that they were experiencing have way lessened. And then we narrow it down to, okay, now mentally, now you tell me, now is there something that is troubling or that's challenging? And then you address that. Of course, rationalizing things, setting boundaries, using compassionate focus tools. How do you handle your thoughts? Mindfulness. There are many, many different tools that you can use, because I believe that as psychologists, we carry a bag of tools, and depending on what is needed for the athlete or for a client, we pick out that from a bag and we help them, in handling their situations better.
So I think we are just almost have reached the end of the show. Not a show, basically. It is just simple conversation platform where I'm just grateful for my all the colleagues basically who are giving their time, and we are discussing some valuable topics. Once again, thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. We will definitely, connect in future. We'll see how we can take this mental health, topic further, discussing it
Hmm.
more deeply. And I also want to thank my audience. And Nicole, if you can tell them subscribe, like, and
Yes, please subscribe to Karan's YouTube channel. I think he's trying to create awareness and trying to bring professionals from the field and have important conversations. So please subscribe, please like, please share.
comments, actually, I think comment. See, there is any suggestion for me, I request, please drop that in a comment box. कि अच्छा लगा बुरा लगा, अगर बुरा भी लगा तो भी at least लिख दो, no problem. I am open to all kind of comments, positive and negative. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Nicole, once again.